A poor girl gave food to a wounded pup. Next night, the Alpha King came with the entire pack. The village lay quiet under the silver glow of the moon. Mist rolled gently over the worn cobblestone streets, curling around the edges of old wooden houses. Smoke rose from small chimneys, carrying the scent of wood fires and baked bread into the night air. Most of the villagers had gone to bed, tired from long days of labor in the fields, leaving the streets empty except for the occasional dog or stray cat wandering silently. At the far edge of the village where the forest began, a young girl moved carefully between the trees. Her name was Alara, and she was known by few, for she had neither wealth nor family to make her stand out. Her hands were calloused, and her clothes were patched and worn. But despite her poverty, she carried herself with a quiet dignity, a strength that came from surviving when life had given her little. Alara carried a small basket in one hand, filled with stale bread, cheese, and a few roots she had gathered from the edge of the forest. Her heart was heavy, yet she pressed on. Tonight, she had heard the faint, pitiful cries of an injured creature near the woods. Though fear gnawed at her, she could not ignore the sound. Compassion had always been stronger than her fear. As she entered the forest, the mist thickened, wrapping around her like soft silk. Every snap of a twig beneath her feet made her jump. The forest was alive, though not in the way the village folk imagined.
There were no spirits or curses here, she told herself, only trees and animals.
Yet sometimes, when the wind shifted, she swore she could hear voices in the leaves, low and distant, as if the forest itself was whispering secrets. Alara finally reached a small clearing where the cries had led her. There, lying half-hidden among fallen leaves, was a small wolf pup. Its fur was matted with blood and dirt, and one of its front legs was bent at an unnatural angle. The pup whimpered softly, trembling with pain and fear. Its large, dark eyes looked up at her, and for a moment, she froze. Many would have turned away from a wild creature, especially a wolf. Yet something in those eyes reached her heart.
"It's okay,"
she whispered, moving slowly. She set her basket down and pulled out a piece of bread, breaking it into small pieces. The pup sniffed cautiously before nibbling at the food. Alara gently brushed some dirt from its fur, careful not to touch the injured leg. Night after night, she returned to care for the pup. She brought food, made soft bedding from leaves, and whispered stories to keep it calm. The pup, in turn, grew stronger, though it remained wary. Through her small acts of kindness, Alara felt a connection she had never known before, a bond that reached beyond words. It was during one of these nights that she first felt the forest shift around her. The air grew colder, heavier, and the shadows deepened. The trees seemed taller, their branches bending slightly toward the clearing. A soft rustle came from the darkness, and the pup's ears pricked up. Alara's heart raced. She was not alone. From the shadowed edge of the trees, a figure emerged. It was unlike any human she had seen. He was tall, with broad shoulders and a presence that seemed to command the forest itself. His eyes glowed faintly in the moonlight, golden and piercing. Around him, shadows moved. Wolves, dozens of them, their coats sleek and shining, their eyes reflecting the moon like liquid gold. Alara froze, unsure whether to flee or stay. Fear gripped her, but she could not leave the pup alone. The figure stepped forward, and with a voice deep and powerful, he said, "So, you have been feeding my pack." The words were not harsh, but they carried authority. Every wolf behind him shifted, their growls low and resonant, yet none dared to step closer. Alara swallowed, her hands trembling as she stood over the small pup. I didn't know it belonged to anyone," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I only wanted to help. It was hurt." "Compassion," he said slowly. "It is a rare thing, even among humans. Most fear what they do not understand." Alara's heart pounded. She had heard tales of the Alpha King, a mysterious and feared ruler of the forest. He commanded not only wolves but humans who dared enter his land. Many said he was ruthless, that he punished those who crossed him. Yet as she looked into his eyes, she felt a strange mixture of fear and awe. Why are you not angry? She asked, her voice trembling. He stepped closer, and the wolves parted slightly, bowing their heads in deference. Because sometimes, a choice made from kindness is stronger than fear, he said. His gaze softened just enough for her to see the hint of something hidden, a loneliness, a longing, a past filled with shadows he could not forget. Ilara did not understand why, but she felt a pull toward him. Her life had been hard, lonely, and unremarkable. Yet in this moment she felt as if destiny itself had opened a door just for her. The pup nuzzled against her, sensing the tension, and the Alpha King's eyes flicked briefly toward it, almost with fondness. "Come with me," he said suddenly. The command was clear, but not cruel. "Tonight, the forest will keep you safe, but you must leave your village behind, at least for a while." Fear surged through Ilara. To leave her home was to step into the unknown. She worried about her family, her life of hardship, everything she had ever known. And yet, there was something in his tone, something in the way the wolves looked at her, that made her hesitate. Could she refuse a chance at something greater, something magical? The pup whimpered, and she knelt to stroke its head. I will go," she said finally, her voice steadying as resolve filled her. She could not explain why she trusted this mysterious Alpha King, yet something deep in her soul told her she must follow. As she stepped forward, leaving the village behind, the forest seemed to come alive around her. The trees parted, the shadows moved, and the mist swirled at her feet. Every step took her deeper into a world she had never imagined, a world where danger and wonder coexisted, where loyalty and power intertwined, and where one act of kindness could change the fate of many. The Alpha King walked beside her, silent yet powerful. The wolves followed closely, forming a protective ring around them. Ilara could feel their eyes on her, watching, judging, yet strangely accepting her. She realized that this was no ordinary forest, and these were no ordinary wolves. Hours passed as they journeyed deeper into the woods. The moon hung low, casting long shadows across the forest floor. Ilara's mind raced with questions. Who was this man? What had made him the Alpha King? And why had he chosen her, a poor girl with nothing, to enter his world? At last, they reached a hidden glade. Moonlight poured over a small clearing, where the ground was soft with moss, and the air smelled sweet and alive. The wolves settled around the edges, forming a circle of watchful guardians. The Alpha King turned to her, his golden eyes reflecting the moonlight. "Rest here," he said. "Tonight you are under my protection. But know this, the forest does not forgive easily, and there are those who will test you."
Ilara nodded, feeling the weight of both fear and anticipation. She placed the pup gently on the moss, and it curled against her, exhausted but safe.
For the first time in her life, she felt that she belonged somewhere, not to the village, not to her past, but to something larger, something mysterious and powerful. The Alpha King gave a small nod, almost imperceptible, and then retreated to the edge of the glade. The wolves followed, leaving Ilara alone with the pup. Yet even in solitude, she did not feel afraid. Something in her heart had changed. She had taken the first step into a new world, and she knew deep down that her life would never be the same again. As she lay down to rest, the sounds of the forest surrounded her. Leaves rustling, distant wolf howls, the gentle trickle of a hidden stream, and somewhere in the distance, she thought she heard a voice, soft and low, whispering her name. Ilara closed her eyes, holding the pup close. She did not know what awaited her, but she knew one thing for certain: the night had only just begun, and her story with the Alpha King and his mysterious pack had just started. And in the shadows beyond the glade, Unseen eyes watched her. Danger and destiny were both near, waiting for the dawn to reveal their true forms. The night was thick with mist, the forest alive with sounds both familiar and strange. Owls hooted softly, leaves whispered as the wind danced through the branches, and distant howls echoed in a rhythm that seemed almost like a warning. Elara clutched the small pup close to her chest, her eyes wide and alert. She had felt the Alpha King's presence earlier, a force that seemed to bend the forest itself. But now, the air carried a heavier tension, as though the woods themselves were waiting for something to happen. The Alpha King emerged from the shadows like a living shadow himself. He moved with grace, his long dark cloak brushing the mossy ground, and the pack of wolves fanned out around him, forming a protective ring. His golden eyes, bright and intense, rested on Elara, studying her as if he could see every thought and fear she carried within her. "Do not be afraid," he said, his voice low and steady, carrying both power and calm. "Tonight you are under my protection." Elara nodded, but her heart still raced. She had never been so close to such a commanding presence. Fear mixed with curiosity, a strange and dangerous combination. She glanced at the wolves, their eyes reflecting the moonlight, and she realized that these were not ordinary animals. They seemed to understand her presence, accepting her without hesitation. The Alpha King gestured for her to follow, and she rose slowly, clutching the pup in one arm. She walked behind him, the moss soft beneath her feet, the mist curling around their forms like a living shroud. The deeper they went, the darker and wilder the forest became. Ancient trees stretched high, their branches twisting like fingers, and the air grew cooler, tinged with a scent of earth and distant rain. Why are you helping me?" Elara asked quietly, unable to hold back her curiosity. "I mean, why do you care about a poor girl like me?" He glanced at her, and for a moment, the mask of power and authority softened. "Because you have a courage that many kings and warriors lack," he said. "You act from compassion, not fear or ambition. That is a rare quality, one that even my pack recognizes." Eliza's cheeks flushed. She had never considered herself brave. Her life had been full of hardship, and survival had been her only goal. Yet here she was, walking beside a man whose power could crush kingdoms. Feeling worthy, they reached a small clearing where the wolves settled around them. The Alpha King crouched slightly, letting the pup approach him. The little wolf sniffed his hand, then pressed its small body against him, trembling. The Alpha King's expression softened, a rare glimpse of tenderness in his otherwise commanding demeanor. "See," he said to Elara, "even the smallest act of kindness can earn trust and loyalty." Elara nodded, her eyes on the pup, which now looked stronger and calmer than before. She had never imagined that her simple act of feeding an injured creature could draw her into such a strange, powerful world. The Alpha King rose and turned to her, his eyes glowing in the moonlight. "You must understand," he said, "that the forest is not safe for humans. There are forces here, older than any village, older than any king. Some are kind, some are cruel. You will learn to see the difference. But you must be careful. One wrong step, and you could bring danger to yourself and those you care about." Elara listened intently. Every word seemed to carry weight, a warning wrapped in wisdom. She felt both excitement and fear. The world she had known, her small, poor village, suddenly seemed so small, so fragile compared to the vastness of the forest and the power of the Alpha King. "Will the wolves hurt me?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. The Alpha King shook his head. "Only if you mean them harm. The wolves sense the heart. They know when someone is sincere, and they respond to that sincerity. You have shown kindness to one of them, and that is why you are still here. But you must earn their trust if you wish to remain."
Elara nodded, understanding the unspoken challenge.
She had come to the forest to help a single pup, but now she realized that she was stepping into a world that demanded courage, wisdom, and a kind heart. Night deepened, and the clearing became a sanctuary of quiet strength. The Alpha King moved among his wolves, giving silent commands and watching their reactions. Elara observed him, realizing that he was not just a man but a leader, a protector, and something more, something almost magical. His presence carried authority that went beyond words, beyond strength. She could feel the tension in the forest, the sense that something unseen was watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. Yet in that moment, beside the Alpha King, she also felt a strange sense of safety. It was as if the forest itself recognized her, acknowledging her courage and purity. Hours passed. The Alpha King finally turned to her, his golden eyes piercing yet gentle. "You must rest now," he said. "The forest is alive, and it will watch over you. But remain alert. Tomorrow, your true journey begins. You will learn the ways of the pack, the secrets of the forest, and the strength that lies within you." She lay down on a bed of moss, placing the pup beside her. She watched the wolves circle around, their forms blending with the shadows, their eyes glowing like embers in the dark. Sleep began to tug at her eyelids, but she did not close them entirely. She wanted to remember every detail of this night, every sound, every movement, every whisper of the wind. As she drifted into a light sleep, she felt the Alpha King's presence near her, silent and watchful. His eyes never left her, a constant reminder of the power and mystery surrounding her. She sensed that he was not only observing her, but protecting her, his connection to the forest and the pack extending to her as well. Suddenly, a distant howl cut through the night, sharp and commanding. The Alpha King's head snapped toward the sound, his eyes narrowing. The wolves stiffened, their ears pricked, and the forest seemed to hold its breath.
"Elara,"
he said, his voice calm but firm.
"Stay close. Something approaches."
"It is not of our pack, and it is not friendly."
Elara's heart pounded.
She pulled the pup closer, feeling the weight of the Alpha King's words. The forest had been a place of wonder and mystery, but now it had become a place of danger and uncertainty. Yet she did not feel the desire to flee. Instead, she felt a strange determination, a readiness to face whatever came next. The howl came again, closer this time, and the mist shifted as a dark figure moved through the trees. Its form was tall and shadowy, and the wolves growled low in warning. The Alpha King stepped in front of Elara, his posture protective, his eyes blazing with a golden light that seemed to push back the darkness. "Do not be afraid," he said again, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Whatever comes, we will face it together." Elara nodded, her fear mingling with awe and trust. She realized that this was no ordinary man, no ordinary forest. She had been drawn into a world of power, mystery, and ancient forces beyond her understanding. Yet she also felt a spark of courage she had never known, a willingness to step forward and meet her destiny, no matter the danger. The shadowy figure emerged from the mist, revealing a wolf larger than any she had seen, its fur dark as night and eyes glinting with an intelligence that was almost human. It snarled, its teeth glinting, and the Alpha King growled in response, a deep, resonant sound that shook the very air. Elara's breath caught in her throat. She had never seen a wolf like this before, so strong, so fierce, so commanding. And yet, even in its aggression, there was a sense of challenge, a test. The Alpha King's stance was unwavering, his gaze locked with the shadowed wolf. The pack moved silently around him, a living wall of strength and loyalty. Elara realized then that she was witnessing a world of power unlike any she had known. The Alpha King was not just a protector of his pack. He was a ruler, a guardian of ancient forces, and a man whose life had been shaped by battles, both seen and unseen. And now, she was a part of this world, her own courage and compassion a key to survival and trust. The shadowed wolf let out a final, chilling howl, then disappeared into the mist. The tension lingered, and the forest slowly returned to its quiet rhythm. The Alpha King turned to Alara, his golden eyes softening slightly.
"You have faced your first test," he said. "Do not mistake it for the last."
This forest is alive with forces that will challenge you, that will test your heart and your spirit. But you have shown courage, and that courage will guide you. Alara nodded, her mind racing with thoughts, fear, and wonder. She looked at the pup, then at the Alpha King, and felt a strange, unshakable certainty. Her life had changed forever. She was no longer the poor girl at the edge of the village. She was a part of something greater, a world of wolves, kings, and ancient magic. As dawn approached, the mist began to lift, and the first light of morning touched the forest. Alara lay with the pup beside her, her eyes wide open, reflecting both fear and anticipation. She knew that her journey had only just begun, and that the Alpha King's world held secrets, challenges, and perhaps even love she could not yet understand. The forest had changed since Alara had entered it. Sunlight rarely touched the ground, filtered through thick branches that twisted like ancient hands reaching toward the sky. Moss covered everything, softening footsteps and muffling sound. The air smelled of earth, damp leaves, and something wild and powerful. Alara walked beside the Alpha King, who moved with confidence, every step purposeful. The wolves fanned out around them, moving silently but always alert. The small pup that she had saved trotted near her feet, now strong and curious, its black and gray fur glinting in patches of sunlight that filtered through the trees.
"This is only the beginning," the Alpha King said, his voice low and steady.
"If you wish to remain here, you must learn the ways of the pack. Strength alone is not enough. Courage and understanding matter more." She had been afraid before, but now curiosity and determination burned within her. She had survived fear and mystery in the village. She could survive this too, she told herself. The first lesson came sooner than she expected. A large wolf approached her, its coat a deep silver, eyes sharp and calculating. It circled her, testing her, its muscles tense beneath its fur. The Alpha King's gaze never left her, but he said nothing. Elra's heart raced. She knew she could not fight it, and she did not want to. She remembered his words. Courage and understanding matter more than strength. Taking a deep breath, she knelt, keeping her movements slow and calm. She reached out her hand, letting the wolf sniff her. The wolf hesitated, then relaxed slightly, pressing its head against her hand. The pack around them shifted, as if approving her choice. The Alpha King's lips curved into a faint, almost invisible smile. "Good," he said. "Trust must be earned, but you are learning quickly." Days passed, and Alara's lessons continued. She learned to read the wolves' movements, to understand their low growls, their silent communication through eyes and body language. She discovered that the forest was alive in ways she had never imagined. Streams that whispered secrets, trees that seemed to shift when danger approached, and shadows that moved with intention. Through it all, the Alpha King watched her closely. Sometimes he would step beside her, guiding her silently. Other times, he would leave her to face small challenges alone, testing her courage and decision-making. Each night, they returned to the same clearing where the moss was soft and the pup curled against her. Slowly, a bond began to form, not just between her and the Alpha King, but with the wolves themselves. They accepted her presence, responded to her voice, and even seemed to anticipate her movements. The forest, which had once felt like a dangerous and alien place, now seemed almost like home. But tranquility never lasts long in the forest. One evening, as the sun dipped low and cast the world in gold and shadow, a sudden sound shattered the calm. Branches snapped, leaves rustled violently, and the wolves' growls rose in unison. Stay close, the Alpha King warned, placing himself between Elara and the sound. Something approaches. From the trees emerged a figure, a human, cloaked in dark leather, with eyes that glinted like steel. He carried a bow, and his movements were calculated, deliberate. The Alpha King's growl deepened. "This one is not friendly," he said. "He seeks to harm the pack, or test our strength. Be ready."
Alara's heart pounded, but she did not step back.
The forest had taught her to remain calm, to observe before acting. She watched as the Alpha King's stance shifted subtly, preparing for battle. The wolves fanned out, forming a living shield around him and her. The man raised his bow, aiming directly at the Alpha King. In a swift movement, the Alpha King stepped forward, his voice commanding the wolves, "Circle him!" The wolves moved instantly, cutting off the stranger's path. He fired an arrow, but it struck a tree instead of its target. The Alpha King closed the distance between them in a single fluid motion. He did not strike the man with violence, but with precision and authority, disarming him and forcing him to the ground. Alara's breath caught. She had never seen such strength, yet it was tempered with control. The Alpha King did not enjoy causing pain. He only sought to protect and teach. "Why do you attack the forest?" the Alpha King asked. His voice was calm, but carried power that made the stranger hesitate.
I wanted to see the Alpha King for myself," the man admitted, his voice shaking. "I've heard the stories. I wanted to test if he is real." The Alpha King studied him for a long moment, then gestured to the wolves. They stepped back, forming a loose circle.
"Curiosity is dangerous here," the Alpha King said.
"This forest does not forgive foolishness. You are lucky to leave with your life." He retreated into the shadows, disappearing among the trees. The tension lifted, but Alara knew that danger always lingered in this place. Later that night, she sat beside the Alpha King, the pup curled against her side. The moon cast silver light over the clearing, and the forest seemed calm once more. "You handled yourself well," today the Alpha King said quietly. "You did not panic and you trusted your instincts. That is what matters." Elara looked at him, unsure how to respond. I'm still learning," she said softly. "I'm not sure I'm ready for all of this." The Alpha King's eyes softened. "No one is ready at first," he said. "But courage grows with each step you take. You have already come far. Remember that. Fear is natural, but it cannot control you." For the first time, Elara saw him not just as a ruler of the pack, but as a man who had carried his own fears and burdens. He had endured loneliness, battles, and loss, yet he remained strong. His presence inspired her, even as it reminded her of how small and fragile she could feel. Days turned into weeks. Elara's confidence grew. She learned to move silently through the forest, to anticipate the wolves' actions, and to sense the changes in the air that signaled danger. She began to understand the Alpha King's connection with the forest and the pack, a bond deeper than words, rooted in trust, respect, and shared responsibility. And yet, even as she grew stronger, she could not ignore the pull she felt toward the Alpha King himself. His presence was magnetic, his voice commanding, yet there were moments when he allowed his guard to slip, revealing glimpses of a heart that had been hardened by past pain. She found herself drawn to those moments, curious about the man behind the power, the loneliness behind the strength. One evening, as they rested beside a small stream, the Alpha King spoke quietly. "You are unlike any human I have ever met," he said. "You are brave, compassionate, and strong in ways that matter most. But there is more within you, something you have not yet seen. The forest has chosen you, Elara, and so have I." Elara's heart skipped a beat. She did not know how to respond. The words carried weight, a promise of connection and belonging she had never known. Yet fear lingered, fear of the unknown, of the responsibilities she could not yet understand. Before she could answer, a rustle came from the trees. The wolves tensed immediately, their ears pricked, eyes glowing in the dim light. The Alpha King's body shifted, ready to defend. From the shadows emerged a group of wolves she had never seen before. Their eyes were red, their fur darker, and their movements more aggressive. They circled the Alpha King's pack, growling low and warning of challenge. Elara's heart raced. She had never witnessed a confrontation between packs, and the tension was palpable. The Alpha King stepped forward, his posture calm yet commanding, his voice carrying across the clearing. "This is my territory," he said. "Leave and no harm will come to you. Challenge me and you will regret it." The red-eyed wolves hesitated, but one stepped forward, snarling, testing the Alpha King's authority. In a flash, the Alpha King's wolf companion surged forward, forming a protective barrier around him and Elara. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Elara clutched the pup to her chest, feeling the power of the pack around her. She realized in that moment that her place in this world was not by chance. She had been chosen not only for her compassion but for her courage, her loyalty, and her willingness to face fear without turning away. The red-eyed wolves finally retreated, their leader giving one last hiss before disappearing into the shadows. The tension lifted, but the lesson remained clear. The forest was alive with challenges, and the Alpha King's world was not one she could enter lightly. That night, beside the clearing, Elara sat with the Alpha King, the moon reflected in the stream, casting silver light across their faces. "You did well today," he said quietly. "Not everyone would have stood with the pack. Not everyone would have earned their respect. You have taken another step toward understanding this world and yourself." Elara nodded, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. She had learned courage, trust, and the weight of responsibility, and she had learned that the Alpha King, though powerful and commanding, was not invincible. He, too, had vulnerabilities, and in that knowledge, she felt closer to him than ever before. As she drifted into sleep that night, the forest around her seemed alive with whispers of the past, the present, and the future. She knew that the challenges ahead would be greater, that dangers both seen and unseen awaited. But she also knew that she was not alone. The Alpha King, the pack, and the bond she had begun to form with them would guide her, protect her, and shape her destiny. The forest was alive with tension. The wind carried whispers of danger, rustling the ancient trees in a rhythm that felt almost like a warning. Elara stood beside the Alpha King, the pup pressed closely to her side. Around them, the wolves of the pack moved with alert precision, their bodies low and muscles tense. Every instinct they had screamed that something powerful and dangerous was approaching. "Stay close," the Alpha King said, his golden eyes scanning the shadows. "This is no ordinary threat. It has watched us for some time and will test everything you have learned." But she stood firm. She had learned courage in the forest, patience with the wolves, and trust in the Alpha King. Every lesson, every trial, every fear she had faced had led to this moment. From the shadows emerged a massive creature, taller than any wolf, with fur as dark as midnight and eyes glowing like burning embers. Its growl shook the very ground beneath their feet. It was the leader of a rival pack, one that had long been cursed by envy and hunger for power. It had come not just to challenge the Alpha King, but to claim his territory and the strength of his pack for itself. The Alpha King stepped forward, his voice calm but commanding. "This is my territory. Leave and no harm will come to you. Challenge me, and you will regret it." The creature snarled, advancing, testing the Alpha King's resolve. The wolves surged forward, forming a living wall, circling around the Alpha King and Elara. The forest seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the clash. Elara felt fear, but not the kind that made her run. This was a fear that sharpened her senses, that made every sound, every movement, every shadow vivid. She remembered the lessons the Alpha King had taught her. Trust your instincts, act with courage, and understand the heart of those around you. The rival creature lunged, and the Alpha King met it with power and precision. They circled each other, growls echoing through the trees, each testing the other's strength. The wolves of both packs responded instantly, their movements a dance of power, instinct, and loyalty. Elara watched closely. She realized that this was more than a battle of strength. It was a test of leadership, of courage, and of heart. She could see the Alpha King's mind at work, anticipating every move, protecting not just himself, but his pack and her as well. Suddenly, a second wave of wolves appeared from the shadows, the cursed pack pressing their advantage. The Alpha King's eyes flicked to Elara. "Do not be afraid," he said, his voice carrying over the growls and snarls. "But stay alert. Your courage will matter." Elara felt a surge of determination. She stepped forward slightly, placing herself between the pup and a young wolf from the rival pack that had broken through. Her voice was firm. "Stop!" she shouted. "This is not the way!" For a moment, the forest was silent. The Alpha King froze, his golden eyes widening in surprise. Even the rival wolves hesitated. Elara's voice carried authority, born not from strength but from courage and compassion. She looked into the eyes of the creature, the one that had led the attack, and spoke again, softer this time. "You do not need to fight. There is enough strength for all of us. Leave the forest and no one will harm you. You do not need to bring pain to others to survive." The creature paused, its growl lowering. It was as if her words reached something long buried beneath its rage, a memory of balance, a recognition of fairness. Slowly, it backed away, signaling its pack to retreat. Elara's chest heaved with relief. The forest seemed to breathe again, the tension lifting like mist in the morning sun. The Alpha King stepped beside her, his gaze softening, a rare vulnerability showing through the mask of command. "You did well," he said quietly. "Your heart and courage turned the tide. Few could have done what you did."
Hilera looked up at him, surprised. I just spoke what I felt was right," she said.
"I didn't know it would work." The Alpha King's lips curved into a faint smile. "Sometimes, what is right is also the strongest. Your compassion saved not just yourself, but the pack as well." "You have grown beyond what I expected." The pup nuzzled against her, and she felt a warmth spread through her. This small creature, once wounded and helpless, had brought her to this moment. And through it all, she had discovered a courage she never knew she possessed. Night passed slowly, the forest settling into calm. Elara and the Alpha King remained in the clearing, watching the pack move silently around them. The moon reflected in the small stream nearby, casting silver light across their faces. "You have changed this forest," the Alpha King said softly, almost to himself. "Not by power, but by heart. You have reminded me of what I have forgotten. That strength is not just in dominance, but in trust, loyalty, and love." "Ooh." Elara's eyes widened. "Love?" she asked quietly. He looked at her, golden eyes reflecting moonlight and something deeper, something tender that he rarely showed. "Yes," he said. "Love is not weakness. It is a force stronger than any rival, any curse, any challenge. And you have reminded me of that." Elara felt a strange warmth in her chest. The man before her, once so powerful and distant, now seemed human in a way she had not expected. She realized that their bond had grown not through grand declarations, but through shared trials, trust, and understanding. The following days were peaceful, yet filled with purpose. Elara continued learning from the Alpha King, understanding the forest's secrets, the wolves' language, and the balance required to maintain harmony. She discovered that even the strongest creatures, no matter how fierce, depended on trust, loyalty, and compassion to survive. Through their shared experiences, the bond between her and the Alpha King deepened. She understood his loneliness, his past battles, and the weight of responsibility he carried. He, in turn, began to rely on her judgment, her courage, and her ability to see the heart of things he had long overlooked. One evening, as the forest glowed in the light of the setting sun, the Alpha King spoke again. "Elara," he said, his voice gentle. "You are no longer just a visitor in this world. You have become part of it, part of the pack, part of me. Your heart has changed more than you realize, and I have changed too." Elara looked at him, her eyes reflecting the golden light. She had come to the forest as a poor girl, alone and uncertain. Now she stood beside a man of immense power, respected and trusted by the wolves, and loved in ways she had never imagined. She began, but words failed her. She did not need to speak. Their shared silence, the understanding in their eyes, said more than words ever could. The Alpha King placed a hand gently on her shoulder, a gesture of both protection and acknowledgement.
"We have faced danger, fear, and darkness," he said softly.
"But together we have endured. Together we will face whatever comes next." "You are no longer alone." The forest seemed to respond to his words. The wind carried a sense of calm, the wolves relaxed, and even the trees seemed to bow slightly in acknowledgement. The night sky, once heavy with tension, now stretched endlessly above them, full of possibilities.
Elara knew that their story was not just about survival or courage, it was about transformation, trust, and redemption.
The Alpha King had been hardened by power and loneliness, and she had helped him remember that heart and compassion were as important as strength. She herself had grown, discovering courage, empathy, and a sense of purpose she had never known. The pup, now fully grown, padded beside her, a symbol of their journey and the bond that had started it all. It looked up at the Alpha King, then at Elara, and gave a soft, contented whine. The Alpha King knelt, resting a hand on the pup's head, then looked at Elara. "You have changed this pack," he said.
"Not through force but through heart, and in doing so, you have changed me as well." Elara smiled, a mixture of joy, relief, and wonder flooding through her.
The forest, the pack, and the Alpha King had become her world, a world of danger, beauty, and love, where every moment carried meaning and every choice mattered. As dawn approached, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose, the Alpha King and Elara stood together, watching the pack move through the forest. The wolves were calm, loyal, and strong, a reflection of the balance they had fought to achieve. But even in this moment of peace, the forest whispered of other adventures, other challenges, other secrets waiting to be discovered.
Elara understood that life with the Alpha King and the pack would not always be easy.
There would be trials, dangers, and moments of fear, but she also knew that together they could face anything. And in that understanding, she felt a deep, unshakable sense of belonging. She was no longer the poor girl at the edge of the village. She was a part of the forest, the pack, and the Alpha King's world. She was brave, compassionate, and loved. And she knew that her journey, though far from over, had led her to a place where destiny and heart were finally in balance.